another settings video, baby. Well, guys, welcome to the video today. Today we are dropping our settings video. Now I got a mixture of things. I'm gonna give you guys my complete settings, all my binds, but I'm also going to give you guys some settings that help you on controller on PC and on console. Even though console players can't tweak with their actual game settings to make the game run at lower graphics to get higher performance, there's one trick you can do to get better frame rate, get better performance in endgame, and I really think it can help you guys out. Now before we dive into it, don't forget guys, you can use code Upshall in the item shop to support me. It goes a long way to help me out. And they just dropped the Harley Quinn bat back in the store, which in my opinion is the best pickaxe in the game. And Epic made it so that V-Bucks actually cost less now. They cost 20% less. But you still give the full support when you use my code in the item shop. Thank you guys so much. All right, let's get into it. So I play on controller on PC, but again, I'm going to be giving you guys tips on how to improve your gameplay for console as well. Some pretty simple thing, but it can make a huge difference. Okay, so for your controller on PC players, I play with everything up on, or everything on the low or off, with the exception of view distance. Now here's the thing, view distance basically loads things in when they're farther away. So if you're dropping on a location and you're looking for a chest or item drops, or even if you're looking for the pirate boat that spawns around the outskirts of the map, the higher your view distance, the farther away you'll see that, and that can really help you out. If you're trying to land hot on a location, land on a piece of floor loot, it can make a huge difference. So I have toggle sprint off, sprint by default off, but we'll talk about that later. You may want to have that on depending on your setup. I don't have auto open doors or sprint cancels reloading on. This is off, toggle targeting off. Auto pick up weapons, I have off. You can have that on. That's more preference. Basically, if you're opening a chest up, it will just throw the guns into your inventory that come from the chest as long as you're walking over them. I don't like using this personally because I hate when I don't have my inventory full and then I end up with something in my inventory that I didn't anticipate being there, and I'm toggling through my weapons because on controller, you had to actually manually toggle through your weapons, right? And then I end up not necessarily on the right weapon because of this. Just a small thing, but I don't personally like it. Reset building choice on, turbo building on, confirm edit on release on. But here's the thing that makes a huge difference, especially for console players. Now, I have this on because I am a content creator, but if you play on console, I 100% think you should turn this off. And there's a big reason for that. Basically, what happens is when you're playing on console, the game locally saves your recordings, the basic data file for the recordings. And while you're playing the game and then also recording the replay, it really tanks your console CPU. Keep in mind, the consoles right now are 8 or 9 years old. We're getting the PS5 and the Xbox Series X next year. But right now, you want to reduce the strain on your console in any way you can. You 100% should turn this off. I've discovered the setting half a year ago, but basically when you're playing on console, it can result in you getting up to 10 higher frames. I know consoles are locked at 60 FPS, but if you have this on, it can bring down your console to 45 or 50 FPS in endgame. If you turn it off, you don't get the same performance degradation. So definitely turn that off. I have it on because I've got a really strong PC, and I can use that then for recordings, for videos. But if you play console, turn that off. I have HUD scale on 95%. You can really turn this up or down to your preference. It doesn't really matter too much. In controller options, here's the meat of it. We have controller auto run off, build immediately on. Obviously, nobody would ever want to have that off. Now, I have my sensitivity on 1.7 build mode and 1.8 edit. Use advanced options on, of course. My horizontal look speed is 41. My ADS is 20%. But here's the big thing. I'm on exponential settings. You don't necessarily want to match my settings if you're playing on linear. I know a lot of you guys are. Personally, I think if you haven't tried exponential, if you switched to linear and you haven't switched back, exponential got an indirect buff when they tweaked aim assist at the start of this season. Here's the thing. With exponential, your curve, when you start inputting on your joystick, it takes a little bit of time for you to reach full acceleration. But if you're trying to track somebody in a box, you can use that timing to get little tiny micro adjustments without constantly over flicking on the player. If you play on linear and you feel like you're a bobblehead and you can't properly track players, or you just feel like your accuracy was nowhere near as good as it was before, definitely try exponential again for a week or so. I personally swear by it. There's some great players we're going to make videos about who use exponential again. I think it's outstanding, and I would vouch trying it. But linear is also great too. The advantage of linear is that it basically gives you immediate response time. It's immediate raw joystick input. So it's going to feel like you have lower input lag when you're playing on linear. So it's kind of up in the air. In my personal opinion, the way I view it, linear gives you immediate responses, really fast inputs, almost feels like you're playing on keyboard and mouse, but exponential gives you that greater realm of control, which really, really helps out with your aiming. If you feel like your aim is whack, definitely try exponential. But if you do play on linear settings, what I personally did is I played on a higher sense, not by too much, but I would bump up your vertical and horizontal look speed by about 5% or so. If you do plan on playing on linear, and I would bop down your aim down sight speed to at least below 15% if you plan to play on linear settings. If you play on exponential, I would play at about this speed, because keep in mind, you can use that acceleration of exponential to make it feel like you have a higher sensitivity. I hope that makes sense, guys, but the basic gist of it, if you value aim, use exponential. If you value speed with building, use linear, but you can still have incredible builds with exponential, don't get me wrong. Now, the next thing I use is I actually have a weird dead zone in comparison to a lot of players, but it makes a lot of sense. I have 24% move stick dead zone. Basically, what that means is that when you move your left stick, do I have this set up right? So this is my left stick right here. So if I move my left stick, that means I have to move it more before it actually fires, before it actually, the game starts taking the input. Whereas I have a 9% dead zone on my right stick, which means it takes less movement for my stick to activate. Now, here's the thing about dead zones. If you have your left dead zone too low, you want to have your right stick dead zone really, really low so you get immediate responsiveness. But if you get too much responsiveness, you can kind of get like a stick drift, and your character will kind of pull like this. Now, this is not a bad thing on right stick. You want to almost get your right stick dead zone right before you get stick drift. But if you get left stick drift, what will happen is your character will kind of creep a little bit like this, even without you necessarily pressing on the stick. Now, what this does is it completely removes your first shot accuracy. See that right there? And as I increase my pace, my bloom gets even worse. So if you have any kind of left stick dead zone issues where you get a little bit of stick drift and your character does that, you're going to be completely removing the advantage of first shot accuracy, and you're never going to get those bop headshots, right? Something you really want to look out for, and why I rock a higher left stick dead zone. Again, it is preference, but I think there's nothing wrong with rocking a high left stick, and I would encourage you to try it out. Now, next we just have our audio settings. They don't matter too much. In our builds, here's something that's incredible for you controller on PC players. I just talked about it in my last video. I play on generic. I really think this lowers your input lag. I don't know what happens when the game is converting inputs into Xbox One or PlayStation. It almost feels like it's adding input lag to it. When you play on generic settings, it basically gives you the generic PC controller setup. Doesn't actually matter what controller you're using. I use SCUF controllers. It's a PS4 DualShock Infinity 4 PS controller, sponsored by SCUF, #Upshall, code Upshall if you want to get 5% off, boys. But either way, you can play with any controller, but pick right here your controller platform. Definitely pick generic. It really feels like your game is way more responsive. Now for binds, I'm going to just minimize my head right now. We have edit down on the D-pad, and that's not on a paddle. That's just actually on the D-pad. I jump on, we'll just give it PS4 controllers right now. I jump on X, circle is switch mode, square is reload, next weapon is on triangle. That's very weird. I put L1 on crouch, and the reason is I want my crouch button to be really, really easy to hit, because crouching in Fortnite increases your accuracy. So I want to be able to do it quick and easily so I can get the most damage, the most beams in on controller. On R3, I have repair. R1 is my previous weapon. And over my build controls, I have a pretty standard setup, except I have edit as down on the D-pad again. My edit controls, I have R1 confirm, L1 crouch, R3 reset. But here's the thing. Over here in these controls, I have confirm edit on release. So while I do have a confirm button for editing, I don't actually need to use it for doing my edits. I can use it for resetting my edits though. So definitely recommend, if you want to speed up your edit speed, no cap, this will actually double your edit speed if you use it. Confirm edit on release is goated. Use it. It's incredible. Changed my life. And I believe that is it, my dudes. Yeah, that is it, guys. But the two biggest takeaways for me is use generic settings if you play controller on PC. Unfortunately, this is not offered on console yet. Hopefully, we might see something like that with the new generations of consoles. You also want to make sure you're using confirm edit on release. That is huge. And if you play on console, make sure you turn off your recording of replays because that makes a huge performance difference. And man, if you're getting better frames, it means your game responds quicker. It means your builds will be better. Your aim will be better. Everything is better when you play this game on a higher frame rate. So please, console players, do that. It's crazy the difference it makes.